Hi friends, it's Mindy and welcome back to my channel. Today I am diving into the Hero Arts June 2025 subscription kits. I'm taking one fun summer theme and turning it into a few different beach and summer inspired cards. So we're going to be using stamps, dies, and stencils from this month's kits. I will have all of my supplies linked down below in the video description and over on my blog where I'm also sharing a few bonus cards. The first card that I'm going to create with is using the layering stencil of the month for June 2025, and this is the Hydrangea. So once you layer all of the stencils together, it creates this beautiful bunch of hydrangeas on the front of your card project. This example is in some periwinkle colors, but I'm going to be doing some purples today for a little bit of a change up. Now, there are 4 layers to this stencil, and there are some square registration marks in the top corners and bottom corners to help you with alignment. So I'm actually starting with a piece of white cardstock that's 5.5 by 8.5. I have it secured to my work surface using some repositionable tape, and then I place the stencil over the top of that, and I'm holding that down with Post-it tape. The first layer of this stencil is going to be my base layer for my flowers, and I am using a really light purple here. This is Passion Flower. And then before I remove this layer of the stencil, I'm going to come in with just a shade darker. And this is Orchid. I'm taking a really small blending brush and I'm going to add that darker shade just to one side of each of the bunches. Also be sure on this first layer to get your corners so that we can line up the rest of the stencils easily. Then I'm going to bring in layer 2 of the stencil, which is going to be adding details to our flowers, so kind of the center portion. And I'm going to be using another darker shade of ink. So this is Amethyst. Again, a small blending brush to fill in that area. And I love these hydrangeas in any color. The periwinkle is pretty and the purple is also really pretty, but I think in any color, these would be gorgeous. Now, the next layer of the stencil is going to be the base layer for the leaves. And for that one, I am using Kiwi from Hero Arts, but you can use any colors that you have in your collection. Now, before I remove this layer, I'm also adding some shadow areas to my leaves. So this one I think is Fresh Lawn, and I'm using another small blending brush just to the base layer of the leaves and the stems. And then moving on to the last layer of the stencil, this one is adding details to the leaves, but also some finer centers to the flowers. So first I'm going to come in with Pine, which is a really nice deep dark green, and I'm adding that over those detailed lines for the leaves. Now I'm going to just kind of wipe away a lot of that excess ink, and I'm going to add the centers using black ink. But I think this would also be really pretty if you used a paste over the top of the centers. I didn't think of that till just now when I was doing the voiceover, but I am doing black. So this is the Intens-ified Black from Hero Arts. I'm using a micro blending brush to really focus in on those areas and try not to get the black too much into the detail of the leaves. Now my panel is done and I am going to take the nested rectangles and I'm going to trim out my area. So it's going to help clean up my edges. And then I'm going to line the back that with some thick foam tape and add this to a top folding card front. So this is 4.25 by 5.5, an A2 size card front. The sentiment for this card is going to come off of the bonus item. So if you subscribe to the whole studio from Hero Arts, you would get this bonus set. It is a stamp set and coordinating die. I love this one this month. It has 3 larger sentiments and then a bunch of these smaller sentiments with a thin strip die to cut them out. I picked out a piece of cardstock that matched my flowers pretty well. This is from the Spellbinders Color Wheel collection. I prepped it with an anti-static powder tool. I'm going to ink up my sentiment in a white pigment ink and then sprinkle on the white embossing powder and melt that with my heat tool. I have really been loving using colored cardstock that kind of matches my background and just ties it all together nicely. When I die cut the sentiment using that thin strip die, I also die cut out 2 more pieces and I'm going to layer those together just to add some dimension to my sentiment. And then I can pop this up on the front of my card. On my blog, I am sharing my periwinkle version, so you can be sure to check that out. I will have my blog linked down below in the video description. So if you want to see that other color version, be sure to head over there and take a look. The next card that I'm going to create with is using the card kit of the month for June 2025, which is always so jam packed. Now, in this card kit, we have a standalone die set. There is also a stamp set, a large stamp set, and it has all of these really fun summertime beachy type of images. And with the stamp set, there's also a coordinating die to die cut out the images and the sentiments. There's also just a ton of other stuff in the kit, but this is what I'm using right now for this particular card. So I did all my die cutting off screen. I used some white cardstock for flowers, and then I used colored cardstock for some of my beachy items. And I'm just adding some color to the greens that are going to go behind my flowers. And for the flowers, I'm really just using the leftover ink that I have on my blending brushes. So for this, it's the purple. I dug through my blending brushes and found one with some teal or some blue on it. And I have it kind of fade off towards the top. I really like that kind of light color look that it has to it. It adds more of an airy feel. And then I can just start adding those and building up my little beach bag using some liquid glue. Now, the beach bag, you will have to pop out the holes. And I am using, again, some cardstock from Spellbinders. I didn't link every individual color, but I will say I get asked this a lot. Like, what colors would I say kind of stand out from others? And my tried and true absolute favorite right now is Seaside, and I think the bottom of my basket there, my bag, is Waterfall, I think it is, but Seaside for sure, and then also Bellini, and, I will have to look up the other color. All right, I had to look it up really quick. It's chiffon. So Bellini and chiffon. I have just been absolutely loving those colors from Spellbinders. The card stocks are available on the Hero Arts website. I did provide a general link to the card stock so you can check that all out over there. And those colors work so well together for a beachy theme. Now, for my basket or my bag, I did die cut another one out of white cardstock just to kind of help build the dimension and give it some stability. And then I'm going to start filling my bag. So I added tape runner behind the top portion of my bag. And then I can just kind of place my images behind it and just kind of stick it down a little bit. So it's just kind of holding things there for right now. I'm going to go ahead and add some thin foam squares behind everything to pop that up on my white card front. I also have a seashell that I created. This is from the fancy die of the month for June. So I tucked that down in the bottom corner, and then off screen I stamped a sentiment using the card kit of the month and the coordinating die. And such a fun look and a great little kind of snack bag, adult snack bag to take to the beach. This is a recreation of a different card I did. The other card, I included some glasses down in the bottom corner. So there are some wine glasses for your wine bottle. And then the last card that I wanted to share with you is using the fancy die of the month. Now, I wanted to really point out and kind of share some things about this because I think it is very unique. So I did speed this up quite a bit because a lot of it is gluing. I did all the die cutting off screen with those colors that I mentioned, the seaside. I think the brown cardstock is fawn, chiffon, and the Bellini, I believe that was. So what this does is it creates this fun Polaroid camera, and then it creates some little Polaroids, and these are so cute, you guys. So you layer your Polaroid over the top of your cardstock, and then you can create little scenes in it. So for one of the Polaroids, it's a seashell. And then this one, it creates the different layers for a beach scene, kind of like you were taking pictures from the beach looking out at the ocean. It even has that little where the sea foam would be. I think that was just so cute. I could see doing some different ink blended backgrounds for your sky there, but I just did a sun for right now. Now, onto the camera, there are some etched lines that the die provides, and that's going to help you assemble everything where it needs to go. All I did was die cut out my pieces from those few different colors of cardstocks that I've been using and just adding liquid glue to them and placing them over that embossed line on my camera. I really love that the Hero Arts kits, I know I've said this before, but I really love that they all kind of match now. So you can really use them individually if you only subscribe to one kit, or if you subscribe to a couple of them or the whole studio, you can really mix and match your products to create even more cards. So that was why it was so easy for me to make at least 3 cards for this video today because they were just all went together so nicely. And one other thing I wanted to show you today, and I think sometimes we forget about this, is I'm going to be stamping a background. Now, this is using the background or they call it the Cling stamp of the month for June 2025. And it is these really fun stripes, which always look great in a nice bold color. But for something a little different, I am using some fog cardstock from Spellbinders, and I'm placing that in my Misty tool. I removed the foam insert. I'm going to condition that with an anti-static powder tool, and then I'm going to ink up the background using embossing ink. And what I decided to pull out that I think was just kind of the magic in this whole card project is iridescent embossing powder. I think we tend to forget about this, but it is absolutely magical. This is the iridescent blue. It's going to look like at first that it's everywhere, and it kind of is. But once you melt it and then wipe away any excess powder, you are left with these beautiful stripes on the front of your card. And when it hits the light just right, you can see the beautiful iridescent shine. And because I used iridescent blue, I thought it tied nicely with the beach theme that I was doing. Now I'm just popping everything up on the front of my card using a mix of liquid glue and foam squares. I did stamp a sentiment off screen and added that to the bottom. That came off of the card kit for June 2025. So if you don't have any iridescent embossing powders yet, I highly recommend them and then just experiment on different colors of cardstock and you're going to get totally different looks between the colors. So those are my 3 card projects here. Like I said, I do have more over on my blog, so be sure to check that out. I'm going to have all of my supplies linked down below in the video description and over on the blog too. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I hope these projects inspire you to create.